that's when I found yoga. That's when I found yoga. And that was my first, everything I just described was my path, right? And all along the way, in the absence of instruction and routine and Sangha, because I had none of those three things, but I guess I had Sangha because I had my close friends and my immediate family, whether or not we got along. So I had Sangha, but I didn't have a teacher or any kind of path until I met the world of yoga. And what the yogis that I met were saying was basically like, oh, right now, suffering is coming all the time, and you deal with the best you can. You practice with it the best you can. Like sometimes you take a vacation. Sometimes you go out into nature. Sometimes you get hammered drunk. Sometimes you do this. Sometimes you do that. Like that's how you're practicing right now. And what they offered, what yoga offers, is a way to systematically, right, create in a safe, controlled environment on a yoga mat or on a cushion or on a bed or in a chair, just a little bit of suffering, just a touch of it, so that you can train yourself in all that safety, in all that repetition, because there's so much psychological safety in repetition. You can train yourself to, instead of doing what your habit is, which is to turn away from the suffering, even to run away from it, certainly to numb ourselves to it any way we can, right? You can train that instinct down and water the flower of the habit of facing it, of just every time something hurts, every time something's tough, every time something's scary, every time something makes you sad, to face it. To face it. And I was ready to hear that. I was about 28 years old when I started to understand that. I had already done so much training. I was already so accustomed to effort and discipline and consistency and hard work that, it was kind of music to my ears. I was like, oh, okay, so all I have to do is train, and I can get out of this hole. I can stop being like so angry and so depressed and so anxious, feeling so alone and so othered. So I dove in, oh God, you can imagine, I'm such an intense person. I'm an intense yogi too. And I just dove into it. And 10 years later, I looked around and I was a master yoga instructor. And I was teaching yoga teachers how to work with people who had cancer, people at end of life, like people who couldn't get out of a bed. I was teaching yoga instructors the essence of yoga so that they could do it with people who couldn't move. It was fun. I liked that life. But I was still in a lot of pain. And it's somewhere in there that I met the teachings of our teacher, the Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh, that I met Thai. And with all of his softness and all of his poetry, he's so gentle. Somehow he too managed to speak to the warrior inside of me. He basically, as I heard it, because I imagine I'd hear it differently if I heard the same series of talks now, I've changed in the last 20 years. But when I first heard it, what I heard him say was, you think you are training because you spend an hour on your yoga mat every day. He was like, but what about the other 23 hours of the day? Where's your training, man? Like, he never said that sentence, but that's what I heard, like a battle cry, like, no, you've just begun. You're a white belt in the dojo. Years into yoga, he showed me that I was a white belt in the dojo, that I had just begun, and gave me all of these tools, all of these insights to what it would be like to practice Zen style, to practice all day long, to always be facing squarely at what's happening right now. Again, I was very ready to hear this because I wanted it. I saw that some healing was possible, right? 10 years or so of yoga had really helped me. I had given up all drugs and intoxicants and other excesses. Just like you can't be, I can't take a pill and anesthetize just one part of my body, So I had to heal everything because everything about me was intense and out of control. Every aspect of my life called for more equanimity, more balance. And so there was Thai saying like, oh, you can have that. You just need to learn how to train all the time. And that's a different kind of training, right? I can walk the livelong day, but I can only sprint for 100 yards. And so it's a very different kind of training. It happens in a different gear than an hour and a half of yoga. It's subtler. And so that's, from an ultimate reality standpoint, like what I've been realizing is that I've been trying to heal my pain all this time. Because who isn't? If I have pain, if I bang this thumb with the hammer accidentally while hanging the picture frame, I grab it instinctively. Like I immediately want that pain to go away. And I'll do what I can to diminish it. That's hardwired, right? I don't have to think about that. That's not a function of my ego or my personality. That's what this is. So yeah, I dove into that then too. Obviously, that's why I'm sitting here.